so nice to see you. Thank you for joining me today. I know that you guys are a pretty busy time of the year as students coming back from Thanksgiving. I'm sure you have a lot of projects and tests and finals to be prepping for, so I really appreciate your time. I'm here today to talk to you guys about working for Humana, specifically for the corporate strategy team, which is the team that I'm on and recruiting for. However, with that said, if you are interested in Humana more broadly, that's totally cool. I'm happy to talk to you about what it's like to work for Humana and can connect you to other people within the enterprise that might have roles open that you could be interested in. So while I will focus more specifically on corporate strategy and sort of the strategy organization as a whole in today's discussion, if you're interested in anything else, please don't hesitate to ask me or to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to connect you. Before we get started, I would love for the two of you to just sort of sign in, I guess. We're collecting contact information from everyone who comes to our info session, so I'll give you a quick minute to do that. And I will go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So presentation, I'm going to change it up since we have a small group. I'd love it to be a little more interactive, but we'll talk a little bit about healthcare as a whole and the industry that Humana plays in. We'll talk about our strategy, which is what our team works on and focuses on in our day-to-day work. We'll then transition to talking about Humana as an employer, what it's like to work here, and just what you might experience as a Humana associate. And then we'll sort of wrap up with questions, next steps, and what our team is looking to hire for, and our roles, and all of that fun stuff. So a little bit about me. My name is Rebecca Shaw. I have been on the corporate strategy team for 4.5 years now. It's absolutely flown by. I am a Hilltopper and a Commodore, so I went to Western Kentucky for my undergraduate degree and then followed that up with a master's in finance from Vanderbilt. And I was hired directly out of my master's post the Aetna transaction breakup. You guys may not know much about that, but 4.5 years ago, the Department of Justice blocked a merger between Aetna and Humana. And as a result of that, I was hired on the corporate strategy team to join the corporate strategy team. Since then, we have done quite a lot. I've seen and done a lot. As you may or may not know, during a transaction, sort of business operations comes to an interesting place. There's a lot that doesn't, you sort of continue to run the business, but there's not a lot of advancement, particularly in the strategy function that goes on because you're focusing on a merger. So as a result, Humana's strategy has been basically rebuilt from the ground up since my time joining the team. So it's been a very cool time to be at Humana and be on corporate strategy particularly. My current focus has sort of evolved to the intersection of strategic and financial management of the enterprise. So as you can imagine, one of the key things about managing a large enterprise like this is hitting your financial goals. But you also have strategic goals that are sort of longer term, require investment and a vision, right? But you have to manage this sort of balance and tension between short-term and even long-term financial performance and your longer-term strategic goals. And so I've been doing a lot of work in that space. And we can talk a little bit more about that later if you have questions. So now, and this is great because the group is small, I'd love to hear from you guys just a little bit. I'd love to know your name, hometown, what major are you studying, and what's interested you enough to come today about Humana. So Virginia, I guess I'll let you start, and then Ryan, you can go after her.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, my name is Virginia. I'm a senior at Center this year. I am from Lexington, and I've always kind of heard about Humana because my dad is in the insurance business. So he does like group benefits and things like that for Assured Partners. So he's been working with Humana for a long time and has always just had great things to say. And I'm on the job search, so thought I'd pop in.
Great. Ryan?
So my name is Ryan. I'm also a senior economics and finance major, and I was also doing like my job search, and Humana. I know it's really big, especially headquartered in Louisville, which is close by. So that's why I was really interested.
Great. I am also originally from Kentucky, so love to hear that. And obviously, being a large employer in the state, we, staying close to home is nice. And a lot of people at Humana are from Kentucky originally, but we also have some transplants too. So, yeah. So let's start by talking about the industry and the company sort of at a high level. You both sort of mentioned that you're familiar with Humana. I'm assuming you're also slightly familiar with healthcare. I would love for one of you just to chime in. What have you been hearing recently about healthcare? It's a big topic in the news. There's lots going on, but what have you heard, and what areas of interest do you have in healthcare, if any? Virginia, do you have any?
I was about to say, I know universal healthcare and access to healthcare for everyone is a big debate right now in the political realm. So that's been interesting to pay attention to. And just with the implementation of Obamacare and then tweaks made to that, it's been interesting and controversial to follow.
Exactly. Ryan, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't really. I am passionate about healthcare, especially like health economics, where like economic principles and healthcare interact. But I haven't like followed any of the recent headlines or anything like that.
Okay, got it. Well, so Humana is a very interesting company. We are very broad-based, but at our heart, we are essentially what is called a Medicare Advantage plan. So we are a health insurer, and our main book of business is Medicare Advantage, which is the privately, it's like a public-private partnership with the government for the senior population. So it's a private alternative to the government-sponsored Medicare, original Medicare health insurance that is offered to anyone over the age, 65 and older. So basically, when you turn 65, you qualify for government-sponsored Medicare, which you still pay for, but like a senior plan, because at that point you're likely not getting any insurance through an employer, which is how most people in the United States are getting insurance. Although, to Virginia's point, since the implementation of Obamacare, there is a non-employer sponsored private insurance for people our age and in the workforce. So you qualify for Medicare. If you would like, you can opt for a private plan through Medicare Advantage, which is offered by a handful of the large insurers. Humana is one of the largest players in Medicare Advantage. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we move. Humana at its core is oriented around being a healthcare company. So while our main book of business is insurance, we really care about the health of our members. And we'll talk a little bit more about that why later. But in general, we understand that healthcare is not a simple thing, and taking care of your health should be one of your main priorities in life. Because if you're not healthy, you can't enjoy life at its base. So we will serve as a partner for health and aging because we're oriented towards seniors, delivering simpler care and to help them achieve their best health. And our strategy is based on a lot of things, and our reasons for being in Medicare Advantage is also based in similar things. So as you guys know and have probably heard, healthcare is a hot topic in all circles, politically and socially. That it is something that comes up a lot, and that is for a few reasons. One, it is a large proportion of expenditures in the United States right now. We spend a large proportion of our GDP on healthcare, and on top of that, while our healthcare ecosystem provides great quality care, it's not a great experience. I don't know, you guys are relatively young, so you probably don't interact with the healthcare ecosystem all that much. But if you had a serious illness, you would find that the ecosystem as a whole is fragmented, complicated, and generally aggravating. And that is a problem for a nation that has as strong of a healthcare system as we do. We provide some of the best quality care in the world in specific realms. And it spends as much as we do on healthcare. You would think that you'd have a better experience, something more akin to an Amazon experience, right? Where simple, easy, personalized, and relatively quick. But it's not. That's one of the biggest things we're focusing on. Additionally, our population is aging. So you all might know, but our demographic is flipping. We are becoming an older society with a majority of our population being over 65. And in addition to that, we have a growing population of people who would prefer to opt for, getting ahead of myself. And in addition to that, so not only is our demographic shifting, we have more older people in the population. People are living longer. The life expectancy of an average American is continuing to go up, and by 2050, I believe, is expected to be in the mid to late 80s. But while people are living longer, they're actually living with more burdens health-wise. More and more people are developing chronic conditions and at earlier ages, which means that by the time that you get to the Medicare population, most of them have at least 2 chronic conditions, which can limit their quality of life in addition to, being a resource-intensive experience at this point, given our current healthcare sort of dynamics. Medicare Advantage is a great alternative and a great way to help manage those conditions. So Medicare Advantage is unique, but it has addressed specific structural changes within healthcare to help improve the experience and try to lower costs and improve quality within the senior population of healthcare. It is more generally designed to acknowledge and address the chronic disease within the population. And we're starting to see benefits. So it's been around for quite a while, but the data is starting to support the idea that Medicare Advantage might be a better alternative than just the traditional government original Medicare. So within our population, you see 43% fewer avoidable hospitalizations. You see a broader array of benefits. And if you guys have been keeping up with healthcare policy lately, you've probably heard about the debate of expanding original Medicare to include additional supplemental benefits like vision and dental, which are actually already included in Medicare Advantage and are separate for traditional Medicare customers. And in addition to that, we actually see a much broader diversity in our pool of membership. So we serve a more diverse population, which actually has its own unique merits and challenges in addition to that. So when you actually think about the outcomes that we're seeing, it's even more impressive. Also, feel free to jump in with questions or comments at any point. You won't be interrupting me, so just if you have a question, if it sparks anything, just speak up. One of the things that's unique about Medicare Advantage is this idea of value-based care. And value-based care is essentially, when you go to the doctor right now, you pay a flat fee for seeing that doctor for utilizing their time, right? So let's just make up numbers. Virginia needs to go see her primary care doctor. It's $100 a visit. In that visit, you see your doctor you're probably in the office for anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, but you see your doctor for probably a third of that, right? They come in, they talk to you for a few minutes, they do their essential stuff, they write it down on a piece of paper, and they kind of walk off and go to their next. And the traditional healthcare system is set up to incentivize volume. So the more patients a doctor can see, the more revenue they bring in for their practice, the better their business performance and outcomes are. What that doesn't do is incentivize them to get to know their patients, their conditions, and help them actually actively manage their care, like their overall health and care. Value-based care is different. So what ends up happening there is doctors are actually paid based on the outcomes associated with their patients. So for example, let's just say Virginia, when you're 65, you have diabetes, right? Which is very common in the senior population. Diabetes left unmanaged can be a very costly condition to have. Obviously, you have your normal day-to-day management, insulin, and those kinds of things. But if your diabetes progresses or is left unchecked, you can progress all the way up to needing an amputation of a limb, normally a foot or a leg. It's a very costly thing, and it changes your whole output, your whole quality of life, right? Losing a limb changes you permanently. That doctor right now is not incentivized to help make sure that your diabetes is in check on a regular basis. In value-based care, that doctor is actually paid based on their ability to help you manage your diabetes and keep you out of the hospital, keep you from experiencing sort of exacerbations, as we call them, of your diabetes. So, crazy spikes or plummets in your blood sugar that would put you in the hospital, and all those sorts of things. And so what you see here is that as a result of this sort of dynamic shift and the shift in how payment and sort of incentives are aligned within value-based care, you see better outcomes. And you see actually better performance on the business side for doctors. So here what you see, some of these things won't really make sense, but STARS is like a quality rating. So for traditional fee-for-service, so that's the healthcare that you and I receive when we go to the doctor right now as part of the younger population, the quality rating is a 3.3, and that's out of 5. For providers, and specifically Humana providers that are value-based, so in a value-based model, that quality rating goes up to 4.4. So there's a dramatic difference in the quality of the healthcare that is received by members in value arrangements. And it also allows the doctors to build deeper relationships with their patients, see fewer patients, give them more freedom to do the thing that they really wanted to do, which is when they entered healthcare, they wanted to help people, they wanted to help patients, and this is enabling them to get back to that sort of root desire for entering healthcare. So the other big thing about Humana is that, and healthcare in general, is that it tends to decouple you from being a person, right? You go through healthcare, you're a patient number or whatever, and you sort of shuffle through the system as quickly as possible. Humana is changing our orientation and focusing on you as a person. So you have unique needs and desires, and everything about you is unique. And you are human, and helping you address all of the factors in your life that do impact your health, which are not just basic conditions. It could be your behavioral, mental health, your financial health, all of those things play a role in your overall health. And so by addressing you as a complete human, we can drive better outcomes. And so we're committed to addressing all of the needs of our members in order to simplify the experience and drive better outcomes. And like I said earlier, Humana is unique. So one of the amazing things about us is that while we are predominantly a Medicare Advantage insurance provider, we actually touch almost all facets of healthcare. We are building out a care delivery side in addition to our current core insurance sort of business assets. So what you see on the left side of this page is information about all of our insurance lines. We are in Medicare, we are in Medicaid, which is the low-income government-sponsored plan for people of all ages. TRICARE, which is for military, active military, retired military, and their families. Commercial group, which Virginia, I'm believing, is probably where your dad's interacted with Humana before, which is for people like ourselves in the workforce that get insurance through their employer. and then specialty dental, vision, and life insurance. And then on the other side of that, I mentioned our care delivery. So we are actually moving into delivering care directly to our members. We believe that by helping expand the penetration of value-based care in the direct delivery lines, we can help improve healthcare as a whole. And so we have entered healthcare directly in a few different places. We own the nation's largest senior-focused value-based primary care provider. We are now the nation's largest home health and hospice provider. We have the fourth largest PBM and a dispensing pharmacy. And then we also have what's called our bold goal. And I don't know how much research you all have done on Humana, but in 2015, we launched the bold goal, which is a 5-year goal to make the communities we serve 20% healthier by 2020. And we achieved that in most of our markets and have since expanded the number of bold goal markets. And so basically this is a community partnership with major cities where Humana has a presence, either with our associate population or our member population, where we try to bring together all facets of health, social determinants, as well as direct health care and their insurance benefits. When you put all of this together, our focus, our mission, the capabilities that we're building, you see that there is a lot going on at Humana, but it's all pointing in the right direction. We continue to perform very strong. We post, on average, about 14 to 15% EPS growth, which over the time horizon that you're seeing on this page is remarkable. And we expect to continue delivering that in the medium to long term. In addition to that, what you see on the right side of this page is that market is excited about this. There's a lot of money in private equity and just general fascination from the financial markets in healthcare right now. And based on sort of how investors are reacting, we're seeing that there's a lot of excitement around Humana, which is why you can see there we're second in sort of the managed care peer group that we have as far as our price to earnings ratio, which is a mark of investor sentiment. So I'm going to pause there. Do either of you have any questions at a high level about Humana, our strategy, or healthcare that I can answer? No? Okay, great. Well, we'll move on. So let's talk a little bit about Humana as an employer. So Humana is a very mission-oriented company. I have found that since day one in my 4 years here. It's one of the reasons why I was attracted to Humana. Originally, I aligned very closely with our mission to help serve seniors and improve not only their health, but their just general quality of life. And that rings true throughout the entire enterprise. So we're now at, just under 100,000 associates, including our direct sort of care delivery, the home health nurses and hospice nurses and other providers that we now employ through Kindred at Home. But you see that as an associate population, 91% of our associates are engaged. And that's more broadly in our mission, in what we're trying to do as a company. And that's despite a pandemic where everyone was sent home. And it would be very easy for us to feel isolated and separated from our mission because we're not engaging the same way as we used to, but it's actually gone up. We've noticed that through the pandemic, our efforts to help our members and help the country as a whole through the pandemic has strengthened our resolve and our alignment with our overall mission. And in addition to that, Humana is a leader in the nation, but also particularly in the healthcare industry regarding diversity and inclusion and other sort of facets to improve associate experience. So you'll see here, we're ranked 13th in 2021 for diversity. We have a lot of different things going on. We have what are called, you see, NRG companies. Those are network resource groups. Those are just groups of people who come together to provide experiences and forums for people who either want to learn or sort of engage with people who are experiencing similar things. For example, we have a women's NRG, we have a Latin Unidos, which is a Latin Americans NRG. We have a caregivers NRG, which is for any associate who serves as a primary caregiver for someone in their life, which obviously is providing a platform and a group of people who are also caregivers, can be a really great resource and outlet for members or for associates. And we have about 12 of them. So there are plenty of things to get involved in. There's young professionals, all sorts of things. So basically anything that you're interested in or want to get involved in, you can get involved in through a network resource group. They provide programming and professional development opportunities and all sorts of things to help you kind of get connected and get involved in the community. In addition to that, Humana's been recognized for driving diversity efforts. We have very strong goals when it comes to diversifying our associate pool, but just some quick stats for you guys. 45% of our associates are people of color, with that actually moving through our management. So 15% of our executive leadership is also people of color. 72% of our workforce is female, which I find astounding and amazing, with 44% of our executive leadership being female. And then we have a pretty healthy dispersion across the different generations, which is something we also track. But our largest associate population is Gen X, with millennial being second. And then I believe, are you guys part of Gen Z, or are you right on the edge?
I think we're right on the edge.
Okay. This is like the era of like, I can't tell. Some people I talk to are Gen Z and some aren't. We do actually have some Gen Z. It's not very large, but you all are also, just now starting to enter the workforce. So I anticipate that to grow. Or well, Gen Z is just now entering the workforce. So I anticipate that to grow over time. So I sort of touched on this, but in addition to that, we have very low turnover, and we have a very strong leadership base that, like I said, I think as a result of all of the efforts that Humana has put, they really care about associates. There's a lot of support that they provide to us, and our orientation around our mission. People just don't want to leave Humana. Our average tenure of leadership is 16 years. I think that says a lot for the culture and environment that is provided to Humana associates. I know people, and one of the great things about Humana too is that because there's so much to do, you can have so many different jobs with one employer, right? I touched on all the different places earlier that Humana sort of hits in healthcare. I can move from corporate strategy to primary care and learn about our primary care business, and then I can go learn about our Medicaid business, and then I can go learn about our pharmacy and have a full career doing such vastly different things, but still staying within the Humana world. And I think that's an incredible opportunity and says a lot about what awaits you should you decide to apply to work at Humana. And then this is just sort of some proof that what I'm saying isn't made up or Kool-Aid, so to speak. We're recognized pretty regularly by all sorts of different groups and professional associations for the different things that we're working on and doing as an employer. Okay, so now I'm going to transition into our team specifically. So like I said at the beginning of the presentation, I'm on the corporate strategy team, and I'm part of the Office of the Chief Strategy Officer, which encompasses the full strategic planning and execution functions of the enterprise. So I sit on the strategic planning team. We formulate the strategy. Then other parts of the organization are our M&A arm, which is our corporate development. They acquire, so they perform inorganic activity and help sort of some of the internal investing and strategic investment stuff. And then we have a strategy management office, which helps us, once the strategy is set, manage ongoing implementation and execution of the strategy and helping us track our progress. So for strategic planning, we have two main types of work that we do. We do our annual strategic plan, which is a detailed sort of overview of the next 1 year and sort of 5-year horizon. What are we doing? What progress have we made? What are our goals? What are we like hoping with our vision, right? And that is facilitated through several conversations, but predominantly through our management team strategy offsite, which occurs in the summer, and our board of directors strategy sort of synthesis meeting that happens in the fall. And then aside from that, we operate like a traditional management consulting firm, think BCG, McKinsey, what have you. And we do individual strategy standalone projects. So if a business is looking to build a strategy, or they're having operational issues, or insert random strategy project here, we come in like a management consulting firm, set up an engagement, help them sort of work through the problem and make recommendations or solutions, or implement ongoing forums to help manage anything related to the projects. We serve we provide a lot of benefits. We are a knowledge exchange, so we do work with traditional management consulting firms. We get a lot of broad industry knowledge that way. We're also responsible for scanning the environment and the industry ourselves and keeping up with what's going on in the world. We serve as a talent pipeline. Our Chief Strategy Officer is adamant about the fact that he wants to bring bright, talented people into corporate strategy, get you to learn as much as you can at a high level about Humana and our strategy, and then send you off into areas of the business where you can help keep that alive. Because as long as the strategy is permeating the enterprise, we'll continue to make forward progress. So we always want to make sure that we have this continuous feedback loop between corporate strategy and the operational sort of functions of the business. And so by sending promising young leaders out into the business, we can continue to keep that going. And then additionally, reducing reliance on external consulting firms. We want to make sure that Humana is making our decisions for Humana, right? So by serving as the internal consulting firm and reducing our reliance on external parties, we can make sure that we have all the necessary context to make the best decisions for ourselves. Strategy management, like I said earlier, they come in once the strategy is set and help make sure that we execute and track progress. And they have 3 different functions. So they have strategy management. They also have enterprise consulting. They're a little more operationally immediately focused, whereas our team is more long-term, future forward stuff. So if we were to say, what is Humana's next big move in healthcare? For example, our next Kindred for acquisition, because that was a major sort of groundbreaking strategic move for us to make. That would be our team. But if a segment is facing some immediate sort of operational pressure and needs to come up with a short-term solution, they might engage enterprise consulting instead of our team. And then integration management, which comes in after an acquisition is made and helps bring the 2 companies together and all of the details around trying to become one unit. And then finally is corporate development. And as I mentioned, they focus on inorganic. So they do a couple of things. They help facilitate inorganic growth strategy. So once our overarching strategy is set, there is the added layer of, well, we have constraints financially and targets and goals that we are responsible for hitting as an enterprise from our shareholders and the financial markets. So they work with leaders to help them figure out how they can use funding or their current business to accelerate their strategy inorganically or through deployment of capital. And then they also source and evaluate inorganic opportunities. So think of one as like a proactive look at M&A and investing, and one is a reactive. So the left side of the page is what do we want to go do inorganically? And then as opportunities arise within the industry, they also assess them as they kind of hit our doorstep. Great reason why you want to work for us and work on this team. I'm sort of going to abandon this page a little bit, although I encourage you to read it. I started on the team as an analyst, and that is the role that I'm here talking to you guys about. As a young professional entering my first career, first job, and starting my career, I could not have imagined a better job. I could not have written a better job description or come up with a better day-to-day sort of work experience for myself than what I've had on this team. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but the main ones that I'm going to list are where I sit in the organization is the prime spot for someone who's early in their career. You learn a lot, you learn fast, and I get to work on everything. I don't have to focus on just one area of healthcare. I'm so interested in healthcare as a broad topic right now, and even now, but particularly when I first sort of entered as an analyst, I didn't know what I didn't know, and this seat allows you to learn everything. You're sort of a jack of all trades, and you get to touch it all and learn it all, and sort of figure out where you want to go in healthcare. The other thing is, my second day on the job, I sat on a call with our entire executive leadership team, so our entire C-suite, about a potential M&A opportunity. I don't know, no colleague I have, no classmate I've had has ever mentioned having a similar experience. Your exposure to senior leadership of a Fortune 50 company is unheard of for someone at the point in your career that you will be at if you join this team. What that does for you is immense, but it does a couple of things. One, it provides you visibility to people who are very experienced, and what that allows you to do is learn from them. And it's incredible to think about all of the decision making and just overall management that I've gotten to witness and absorb in my time, my 4 years on this team, and what that will mean for me later on in my career. Also, recognition. As much as I sometimes hate to say this, people knowing who you are helps in your career. By having the senior executives of Humana know your name and know the projects that you work on and understand the importance and the role that you've played at Humana, that does a lot for your career trajectory overall, and helps accelerate your development as a whole. And in addition to that, they also serve as mentors and advisors. So I have a couple of senior leaders at Humana that I go to regularly for career advice or feedback or just general career development. And I would never have gotten that opportunity or built those relationships without this role. And then in addition, if you've thought about like traditional management consulting, this is a great alternative in the sense that it doesn't require a ton of travel, which right now is not all that fun given the pandemic. And it also, we have a great work-life balance, which can be debatable in some traditional consulting roles. And I don't know, it's just a great experience. I'm here specifically talking about two different roles. So we are hiring on both the strategy side and the corporate development side, depending on your interest. Here are the QR codes. If you scan them with your phone right now, they'll take you to the links and you can apply directly there. So as I mentioned, strategy is where I sit. We're hiring for both strategy planning and strategy operations. So the people who set the strategy and the people who help make sure that we stay on track. And then corporate development is a separate application, which is the inorganic M&A function that I've talked about. That's really all I have. And I candidly don't know what time it is. So if we need to wrap up, we can, but I'd love to leave a couple of minutes for questions from you guys if you have them.
Yeah, I have a question. So I am an international studies major, which doesn't involve a lot of background in finance and econ. So I was just wondering, do these roles require a background in that or a major in that, or could I still apply as an international studies major?
So I would say corporate development does. Corporate strategy, no. What I would recommend, and I think based on what you said, I mean, having a basic understanding of business concepts is helpful, although not required. Not everyone on our team has a business major or background. Some are more health and health policy related. So there is no specific, particularly on the strategy side of things, no specific major or knowledge base that you have to have. You don't have to be an expert in healthcare. You don't have to be an expert in business. We'll teach you all of those things. With corporate development, though, you are going to need a little bit more of a true working finance knowledge and some technical skills in order to be successful in that role. So if you don't have that, I would think that would be a little bit more difficult for you if you wanted to apply.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ryan, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so what does the recruitment process look like for this position?
Yeah, great question. So the recruitment process between the two roles might be slightly different. I'm going to speak more to the corporate strategy side of things. So we have the roles open right now. We'll close the applications just prior to Christmas. So think like Christmas Eve. I think that's technically the last, or well, the day before Christmas Eve probably is our last working day before Christmas. So the 23rd is probably the deadline. We'll pull that down. We'll go through all the applications. We'll start first rounds in January. Our team utilizes a mixed interview process. So we utilize both behavioral interviews and case interviews. If you have gone through any management consulting interview processes, you know what that is. A case interview is just basically like a business problem that we ask you to walk through and help us solve. It's facilitated with someone on our team. And in addition to that, we are offering a sort of case interview tips and tricks session for anyone who gets a first round interview invitation, and that'll be in January as well. And that'll be totally optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, if you feel like you know all there is to know about case interviews or feel super comfortable with it. You don't have to do that, but we are offering it because we realized that, when I came out of undergrad, I had no idea what a case interview was. So having something like that would have been super helpful. We'll do first round, and then there'll be one more round after that, which will be the final round. And that one's still a little bit fuzzy. We like to do it in person in Louisville if possible. But given COVID and all of the sort of craziness around that, we're not 100% sure what we're going to do. It could be virtual. That would be likely mostly behavioral interviews. And then we would extend offers. And the caveat here is that if you apply for strategy, the strategy role, you could end up getting an offer from one of 3 teams at this point: strategy planning, strategy management and operations, or our healthcare services strategy team, which serves like our pharmacy, home health businesses. They're also looking to hire at this level. So you are actually really applying for 3 jobs when you apply to this one position. And then corporate development is sort of on its own. They'll go through their own process. And I don't have as many details, but the deadline for application is the same as ours, so Christmas time. And I would assume that they'd start getting in touch about interviews after the holidays.
Thank you.
Great. Well, that, like I said, that's all I have. If you guys don't have any other questions, then I think we can wrap everything up. Hopefully my contact information, I'm gonna actually, we'll just go back up to here. You all want to grab my contact information, and hopefully it's attached somewhere to the invitation for today, or you can get it from Brianna. So
yeah,
if you have further questions and you want to reach out to me one-on-one, I'm happy to chat with you more about the role in Humana And like I said at the beginning, if you're interested in a position not in strategy or corporate development, I don't know, we've had people interested in HR or IT or our actuarial functions. If any of those strike your fancy, just reach out to me directly and I'll connect you with someone.